So the advantage of using something like a store, which is what Redux is, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to modify this a little bit. So my initial state is going to be, I'm going to specify that we have an empty array of items. And I'm going to go over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my app is going to become a lot less stateful. In fact, what I'm going to end up doing over here is I'm going to take all this out, and I'm going to modify my app dramatically. Bear with me for a second. So here's our app. And what we're going to end up doing over here is we've got our app, and we're going to just return this hash router. And for the moment, the only thing that I'm going to do is instead of doing render, I'm going to make my life easier by saying the component is going to end up being just the nav. Start out that way. Now, this is going to definitely end up breaking because right now my nav is looking for these items over here, which it doesn't have. I mean, I could go over here and get this to work by doing this, and then it'll just tell me that I've got 0 items, hopefully. Let's just take a look. My guess is probably somewhere over here with my app. I've got an extra brace. Let's make that go away. And so now I've got 0 items, which is fine for the moment. But what I really want to do is that instead of my app maintaining my state, I'm going to have my store maintain my state. In order to do that, that store is going to end up changing, and I'm going to want to subscribe to it. I'm going to modify my nav, and my nav is going to all of a sudden become a stateful component. So the disadvantage here is that you have multiple stateful components. And when my component ends up mounting, this is going to be my render method. And now it's going to get the items from its own state. But it's going to end up getting this state from this store, which ends up changing. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, I'm going to get items from this dot state, and I'll put in my constructor here. I'm going to call super. I'm going to say this dot state equals items to be an empty array. And if I just did this, I'm going to be back in the same boat that I was before with 0 items. But really what I want to do is I want to end up getting this data from my store. So what I'm going to end up doing here is that when my component ends up mounting, I'm going to end up subscribing. And in fact, what I'm going to end up doing over here is I'm going to say store state, because that's where my items are going to be stored. And I'm going to get it from the items from here again. Nothing really is going to end up changing here. This is still going to end up being 0, and it's going to be there for a little bit. But what I'm going to do here is that when my component ends up mounting, I'm going to say store, I want to subscribe to you. And I'm going to get past the new state of the store. And what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to say this set state items state.items. Again, for the moment, this is not going to end up changing, but let's just take a look. Nothing really breaks at this point. And let's just say for the sake of argument that when my app ends up loading, I'm going to go over here, and I could even do it in a set timeout. So let's just say after 500 milliseconds. I'll go over here, and I'm going to say store. What I want to do is I want to publish a change. And the change that I want to publish is that items, which before was an empty array, is now going to have some data. And again, I'll do what I had before. Now again, since the nav is listening for these changes, what's going to end up happening is that after a half a second, I'll see that it'll end up having these values. So this is probably the easiest one to do. So what ended up changing? Basically, my app now is not going to be worried about the state anymore. All the state is going to be maintained in this store, and I've just got to make sure if there are any changes, whoever is interested is going to have to subscribe. And when they unmount, they're going to have to unsubscribe. And whoever wants to make any changes is going to be able to publish.